ages, as well as leading to those individuals that's in their 30s. Because those are the ones that have been caught with marijuana and now affected by it in the job market. Young college students and
So it's harm
in the
reduction.
city. Harm reduction. So that has to be the approach. Harm reduction has to be the approach to getting it done. But it can be done.
Can I?
Okay, so let's just take a, go ahead, final comment.
Well, yeah, final comment. One, we're about to release a new report. We've been studying every residential warrant executed by the Metropolitan Police Department for the past 3 years. And I want to say, as we read these reports, there are thousands of them. They're all black people. I mean, I haven't seen a single one executed on a white home. Maybe there are some, I haven't gotten to them yet, I haven't seen any yet. And many, if not most of them, are about marijuana. So when you think about flashbang grenades, the militarization of police, battering rams being used to batter down grandma, sister, mother, homes, in the presence of children, 9-year-olds with guns pointed at their face, all in the pursuit of marijuana enforcement, this is an issue impacting every black community here in DC. And so I think when we talk about it in those terms as well, hopefully that will begin to resonate with folks.
Okay, we're gonna go around this way and we'll get comments. And I have a proposal I want to put before the group as well. Go right ahead.
Okay, so a couple of things, and I support actually both initiatives, the marijuana and the stop and procedure police department, But I want to go to, and I want Seema to be in here because she needs to hear this, right? Because see, it's one thing to get the youth, to go to the youth and get them involved in testimony, but it's another thing to have them involved in the whole entire plan. And I think that we need to be thinking, and that's what Tyrone is talking about. It doesn't make sense for the community don't want to receive information like late. They don't want to be the last people to receive information. You know what I mean? They want to be the first people to receive the information because especially if the information is directly impacting them, right? So especially when it comes to our youth right now, everybody talking about our youth, but I don't see a whole lot of people with them, with the youth, and so we need to, have a plan to, capture, the presence of our youth, whether we put them in our hip pocket, however we do it. But if we're going to be talking about legalizing marijuana, and we're going to be talking about stop and frisk procedure of the police department, then we should be engaging the youth. That should be part of the plan. You know what I mean? And
well, I thought I heard some of that, but let me just say this.
no, you heard. What we heard was that I've been involved in the whole in all of the processes. I testified at the de-crim. So it's been bringing youth to testify. And teaching them, how to testify. But I'm talking about a comprehensive plan that keeps the youth involved, where they can go back
Right.
and teach other youth.
So let me make the suggestion. So it seems to me that that's not a difficult proposition.
Right.
So if we have people who are not are detached from that process, or who are not sufficiently able, or whatever it is, then those who have that capacity, like you,
Right.
or Tyrone, or whomever, should simply then we make that connection with FEMA and others, and others who are doing the work, so that connection can be made. So that's what we're sitting around the table doing. That's why the table becomes important. So we can take that off the table. I mean, one of the things that it seems to me we want to begin to talk about, and that's one of the things that Charles talked about when he saw immediately when he heard about this initiative, was how do we plug some people in? So those who have the youth as a constituency that are not being talked about and not being engaged, then let's figure out how to engage them. Okay, we got that as an agreement? All right, next. Charles, I know you.
Well, I have a question.
Go ahead.
One of the things that we've been doing, just going into the communities and just talking to people about what to do if they get stopped by the police. I mean, we all often Heck and Jamal over in Southeast down Mississippi Ave. But I'm not confident that I can explain to somebody 15, 16, 17 the depth of what this means. Because, I work in government. If you got a drug record, or it's never sealed. So even if, I don't know what's gonna happen when they, go to vote, but just the depth of it, I don't think someone 16, 17, even 18 and 19 years old can see the long-term impact of this. And I mean, I'm kind of on the fence on that. I mean, I see what it does in terms of if you're only smoking a blunt, should you have a record for the rest of your life for that? No. But that's not on a federal level. On a local level, you're still impacted. And so you still got to pass a drug test at some of these jobs. So, I mean, I don't know.
Expungement means expungement. So if it calls for like the decrim bill, if this is expunged from your record, it's expunged from your record, period. Whether it's here in DC, because the only way the feds would get your record here in DC would get it from DC. So if it's expunged from your record in DC, it's not on your federal record.
Okay.
If you you don't have a federal record, it's not something that the feds could access because it's no longer on your record. So that would be the example. That once it's taken off, it's off. It's not like, a thing where somebody said everything you were involved in as a juvenile is not on your record. It is on your record because it's not taken off, but expunging your record, clearing your record means that it's all gone.
Guys, just so clarification purpose for me so I can understand.
Right.
I mean, when they were working on Homeland Security on Martin Luther King,
Okay.
one of the things that they were talking about in Barry Farms was getting people in Barry Farms hired just so they could do demolition work, to move rocks from one end of the compound to the next. But what prohibited them from being able to do that is because it's federal property, they needed to be able to have some level of security clearance to do that. And we're only talking about moving rocks. They're not looking at no files, they're not going to touch the president, they're just moving rocks. But because it was federal property and because of the nature of the building, they needed to have security clearance. And so I'm just asking and trying to get an understanding of where does drug charges fit into that may be, because I'm telling you, they're not expunged.
There's a
Like, I know
variety.
that firsthand.
There may be a variety of charges that could be on your record from a federal security standpoint that would eliminate you from being able to serve in the federal government.
Right.
And it won't even have to be marijuana. It could be
Right.
it could be something else. But because it was federal land and they were the ones that were doing the hiring, then they also can control. They're also in control of what they're accessing.
Right.
So if there were people there that had some minor infraction with the law, that may have been the reason. Because you had to remember that the box isn't eliminated, and the federal government hasn't eliminated the box. The box eliminates you, period, in the federal government because it's the first thing. It's not like what we have in D.C. where we don't. The box, there's something like the box, but it's later on. It only eliminates you from the job. Right. That's something else. And then it depends on what you're applying for. But the feds don't acknowledge that. They do what they want to do. And since you said what you said was right, it's federal land, so they were the ones that was doing
Right,
it.
and the only reason I
However,
bring it
but
up-
for the purposes of clarification, if this were to be passed with the current decrim legislation, is there an arrest record?
No.
So therefore, when the feds look, there would not be an arrest record. Not for that. There may be something else. I think that's what Ron is saying. It may be something else. Or even with this even, in a sense, increasing it to two ounces even makes it more so. So that would not be on the record. So when the feds look for the record, they've got to go somewhere to get the record. They would get it from D.C. So if they would have to find some other reason, some other criminal, quote unquote, criminal offense other than this as a means for it. Yes.
So, just so we're completely clear, currently, the marijuana record sealing bill is not passed. It is pending legislation.
Okay.
Right now, people who have possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana will get a ticket, $25. They will not get arrested and they will not get a criminal record. So people going forward will not get any further criminal records as it relates to marijuana. What we're trying to do in stage 2 of this, after we pass the initiative, is to pass this marijuana record suing so that people who already have a record can get that expunged.
Okay.
But that's also a part, correct me, that's also a part of the first decrim bill, right?
Well, yeah, so it was a companion bill. It was a companion bill. It was a companion bill. We couldn't include it in the marijuana bill itself. It had to be a separate bill.
Okay.
And it was a complex negotiation between the Attorney General's office because, as you mentioned, law enforcement officers and the court always want to have access to criminal records. So even expungement doesn't mean they're like going and, you know, burning the paper somewhere. The record still exists. It's a question of when can it be used against you and when can it not. And there was also the question of how do you identify people who had the charge if the charge perhaps was wrapped up in other charges. And because the and this is the last thing, because this is really in the weeds, so to speak, I mean, on the bill, but our bill created a 1 ounce sort of threshold, but that threshold didn't exist before. So what did you do with all the people when you don't really know how much they were getting? Yeah, so.
Charles.
Yeah, you know, I mean, just listening, you know, it can still be confusing. Education, man, is so important, and I had really 2 questions. One of them got answered, and that the first one was, is the record sealing part of Initiative 71? It's not.
No, it's not.
Okay, so there's no expungement, no record sealing, none of that.
Right.
Right? The other piece is, if, and this is where our community really gotta be educated, right? It's not legal, all right? Decriminalization is not legalization, okay? And that's very important, right? And the other thing is, what's the consequences of 3 ounces, of getting caught with 3 ounces?
Right, so if you were to have 3 ounces on your person, you would be criminally arrested.
Arrested?
Right.
Is there still a marijuana, what was the charge when you get caught with marijuana?
So you would probably get,
possession.
you'd probably get possession with intent to distribute at 3 ounces.
Currently, with 3 ounces.
Well, currently, anything over
And,
1
right,
ounce.
but even if Initiative
So-
71 passed.
Right, so when Initiative 71 passes, you can have more marijuana than 2 ounces, but you can only have 2 ounces on your person. Legally.
And I think it's really important, man, because we have, you know, folk in the community who are under the impression that, you know, can't discriminate the difference between decriminalization, legalization. Now as part, you know, we can have and do as we choose. You know what I mean? I'm talking about youngins. I'm talking about youth. Youngins who smoke. And then the other thing is, as you were saying, you know, it got to be some education around this because the youth, right, who take this as an opportunity to just smoke, what's going to happen when they go look for jobs? You know what I mean? When they, you know, trying to do things for their life. I mean, you know, this is we have to really begin to educate and look how to comprehensively get in these neighborhoods and really answer these questions because they out there now, you know, running off of bad information. First of all, thinking it's legal. It's getting ready to be legal.
So, definitely we talk to people all the time about the new law, and it's going to take some work on our part. I do want to say, like, the de-crim bill creates an intervention which is different than other interventions, such as the fact that now instead of a referral to a 4-hour drug course, it's a referral to your parents. Because we really believe that it's more appropriate for the parents to impart values about marijuana consumption than the court.
I have to say this. The parents we talking about smoke too.
Smoke with their
you know what I mean? You know, we talk about
But so do white
parents.
parents and their
Right.
kids.
And I'm clear on that, but I'm talking about the mother that's in the house. And I ain't just talking about smoking marijuana. I'm talking about drug addicted. You know, we're talking about, you know, sending them back there to be educated. What are we really saying?
Yeah, but I mean, and that's why we really, that's why the conversations do become important. Because there's still a fundamental question as to whether or not we would prefer to have that intervention be a police intervention or a parental community intervention. You would rather have the police have that intervention?
No police.
Well, all right, well, that's the point that Kimo was just making. In other words, or the criminal justice system. And in fact, one of the points that Ron Hampton has been making, and I don't know, we've been in a number of cases, is we need to find ways to get the criminal justice system as much out of our lives and our community as possible.
Absolutely, that's why I'm at
Okay,
this-
so therefore, this is a part of that process, is at least to make that referral. And then the issue of whether someone should or should not smoke, and that's a whole nother conversation that we ought to have. But at least in terms of the criminalization process, it reduces that harm. That harm is at least minimized in terms of the process. And that's, again, the key conversation and debate we need to have in our community. Let's keep going around. Yes,
Well,
Minister.
I'm listening. Brother covered a lot of what I wanted to say and think of to say. But there's one thing that stands out in my mind with the criminal aspect of it, is that how are we going to deal with the children or the youth that take this beyond just past an ounce or two, but even past the part about being a criminal. I mean, what they're smoking in D.C. is very, very dangerous. I'm talking about the stuff that's dipped in that fluid. They call it boat. That's just as crazy. And if you, I mean, it's bad because we don't have no way of stopping that. And to say an ounce is all right, you're saying it's an ounce of that crazy crap is all right. So even on the job where you don't have no type of charge or anything because you have unannounced, you're still in trouble. The youth is still in trouble because they're still smoking reefer or marijuana that's different types of marijuana that can mess people's minds up. At the same time, they go down the street ripping their clothes off. They got guns that actually shoot each other with. Like that time the young lady went past me over on King Avenue and drove straight to that
Crowd of people.
yeah. Reverend Wilson has the thing every day.